Okay, so this is Miss Uhlman, and you lived in Haiti from 1989 to 2001, is that correct?
I did, yes.
Okay. Where in Haiti did you live?
I lived in Port-au-Prince.
In Port-au-Prince, the capital city that's been featured in the news so much.
Yes.
Okay.
I lived actually about a block from the Hotel Montana, which was one of the major buildings that collapsed, which
wow.
a lot of people were still digging people out of. A lot of dignitaries and Americans stayed there when they were there.
When you lived there, could you describe the conditions, just the everyday people?
Well, the one thing that's being stated over and over in the news, and always has for as long as I've been aware of Haiti, is they always have the tagline, poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Mm-hmm. And I knew that going in, having worked with immigrants in the early 90s from Haiti. And when I first arrived there in 1999, though, physical conditions, deterioration of buildings that existed. Yes, you saw a lot of people on the streets at all hours. The thing that struck me the most and was my lasting impression of them was that every Haitian whom I saw took the time to groom themselves, and they would wear shirts and pants. Their shirts would be tucked in, they'd be wearing a belt. So even if they only had one outfit, they took a great pride mm-hmm. in how they represented themselves to other people. Even if that was their only outfit, they went home, they cleaned it, they pressed it, they made sure they had some way of looking decent for each other during the day. But it's a poor country. There was one traffic light in the entire city, a couple of stop signs, but mostly you had to live in the culture to understand mm-hmm. these were the rules that people abided by.
Okay. What was the infrastructure like? You mentioned one stoplight. I mean, was there like a...
Mm-hmm. There was electricity. They say rolling electricity. It meant that you generally, if you were in a nice enough house, which I was fortunate enough to be in, that had electricity, you had rolling blackouts, which meant that you could expect to have electricity approximately 10% of the day. Mm-hmm. You had to know approximately, on an average, what time you generally got that electricity in order to get things done. That was generous to say you had it 10% of the day, because a lot of times you wouldn't have it. I also had a generator, so that when the other electricity went off, I had the option of powering up. And you would have people outside my gate who would come congregate there at night when I had my lights on, mm-hmm. because those were the only lights to read with. Mm-hmm. And water was generally, they have a large problem with the water. Because you have tap water, but it's undrinkable, mm-hmm. and most people don't have tap water. We had a cistern which you would have to come fill. They would pump the lands dry in order to bring the water, which they would then arrive in big trucks and dump in by hoses down into the cistern. You tried to obviously collect and capture as much rainwater as you could, but your average Haitian would go to a place where they sold water, or when there were floods in the street, and they would use empty buckets, empty detergent bottles, any kind of bottle they could get to go and fill that up when water was available.
Okay. Do you think that at any point Haiti possessed the ability to respond to a disaster like this? I mean, obviously here we're spoiled with the police department, fire department, the drop of a hat. Did they have anything like that there?
No. I could tell some funny stories about the police. We used to joke that the police had one gun for probably every 25, mm-hmm. maybe every 25, one legal gun for every 25 officers.
Wow.
They would go on raids or busts, and they would have to take the local transportation. So you'd see them on the back of the tap-tap buses with their guns in their riot gear, getting ready to go knock down a house.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times in areas of heavy seismic activity, there are signs that something coming. Is there anything like that you remember? Nothing at all. No. Wow.
There is nothing. And what was really interesting, shocking, strange to me, and I know it has been cause for some speculation of that perhaps it wasn't a natural disaster, have been that there weren't any signs, and that Haitians, as much as we say that they're kind of, again, we like to stereotype them as being backward and, just poor, as if that made them desperate and ignorant. They're not ignorant, and they prepared themselves for hurricanes, for floods. They knew you get mudfloods. You knew where and where not to build houses according to previous activities and previous natural disaster problems. They did not, so it was strange that they were ready. We had hurricane preparedness things that the U.S. government would issue. There was nothing about an earthquake. There was no talk of ever having experienced an earthquake. There was no popular culture about, remember the time 50 years ago when, so there was nothing like that. And there was also a lot of talk about the buildings which collapsed. And some of the buildings which collapsed were the highest priced, most well-constructed buildings that existed in Haiti. The Hotel Montana, which I referred to, that was a 4-star hotel. It would have been a 4-star hotel here. It was very well constructed. The National Palace, which a lot of people saw the pictures of where it collapsed upon itself, that was the presidential power that the Duvaliers the presidential palace that the Duvaliers put in there. It wasn't shoddily constructed. Yes, were most of those houses on the high sides of the hill that collapsed shoddily constructed? Sure. Mm-hmm. But it also affected some of the better buildings, which to me makes it kind of sound inevitable that if something like that were to happen, whether the other ones had a building code or not, it wouldn't have been much different outcome, I think.